Okay, hello there. I think we're rolling. Um, Hi there. This is your professor, Daniel McConnell, for EXP 3604 Cognitive Psychology. And I'm going to try to keep this as quick as possible, but I like to do these kinds of videos for my online courses. They're essentially a virtual syllabus day, so I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of the syllabus, really kind of hitting the high points, not reading the whole thing, and also a quick little guided tour around the Canvas environment. So let's get right to it here. Well, there I am. Contact information and office hours right off the bat. Let's do that. Um, so office hours 12:30 to 2:30 on Tuesday, 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. on Wednesday. These are largely Zoom hours. We're an online class, so obviously then there's no guarantee that you're necessarily going to be local and on campus. So I will have Zoom open for these hours. So just click the Zoom link, sign in, and we can meet. Um, I'd say there's a very good chance, 95% chance, that I will be in my office during these hours. So, of course, that means that if you do happen to be local, you're also welcome to just pop into the psych building there. Room 356 is my office here. Also got my phone number for as long as that works. I've heard tale that we're gonna not have phones anymore, so I don't know. But that's that's there for now. Also, there's my email address, and you can use that. But I'm going to strongly encourage you somewhere else buried in the syllabus under communication policy is a note that it is best if you for messaging to use the inbox tool. You see the inbox tool over here on the far left, um, here in Canvas. If all my class related messages gets kind of self-contained in Canvas, I'm going to be a whole lot more efficient and faster, importantly, at replying to you. So do that. But obviously, you have my email if you need it. Um, Teaching assistants, we're still working out the final details there. So for now, TBA on that. Um, you can read a lot of this kind of stuff on your own, but let's look at course materials here. There's a book called Cognition. I think I have that sitting around here, by Chun and Most, Oxford University. This, I believe, is the first edition, so I don't think it looks like this anymore because now we are switching over to the second edition, which I don't have a physical copy of as far as I know. So, but if you click, you don't need a physical copy. Click the course materials link, which is the third link down there in your left-hand navigation, and that will take you to the bookstore's site there where you can opt in and access the book through that link. Um, if you don't opt in, there's probably other ways to buy the book directly from the publisher, maybe a physical copy somewhere online. Um, doesn't really matter. I think using the first day program is probably the most cost effective. I'm not 100% sure. Um, but you can choose other options if you want. Just you need second edition of Cognition by Chun and Most from Oxford University Press. Anyway, let's move on here to the assignments and the grades. So course assignments here, we have them listed. Three exams. So I'm dividing the semester into three units or modules, whatever you want to call them here. There will be an exam at the end of each one of these, 60 multiple choice questions, 2 points each. So that's 120 points per exam. We have an 80-minute timer, and we do use the Respondus Lockdown browser. So that means that it does not use any proctoring, right? So there's no webcam monitoring or proctoring or anything like that. Just the lockdown kind of locks you into the browser window so that you cannot switch tabs or switch applications. You got to stay enclosed into the exam on your device for the full time you're taking the exam. Um, we also have quizzes. These quizzes are based more on the book. So the exams really, as I'm going to show you, I'll show you the modules here in a second, very, very closely connected to the lecture content. And I have video lectures that are part of the class. So you're going to want to watch those and take good notes because that's going to serve as the primary source material for the exam questions. For these chapter quizzes, on the other hand, those are using questions that came with the book. So that's much more closely tied to the textbook chapters here. So for these, read the chapter, and then actually you can even have the chapter up while you're taking these quizzes because there's no lockdown browser on the quiz. There's no timer, so you can take your time to switch back and forth between the question and the book and make sure you find the appropriate passage in the book that answers the question and move on. You can also get 2 tries on the highest score counts. So, expecting, you can do well on these quizzes here. The other third kind of assignment are article reviews. There are going to be 2 of these. So the idea is you're going to read a journal article, 2 journal articles, because there's 2 assignments, right? So read 1 journal article and then write a review of it and then do that again, right? So I will show you where the articles are to read in a second, but let's first talk about what goes into your review. I have hopefully a thorough set of instructions and rubric here. So you need a cover page. This tells you what to put on the cover page. A thorough summary of the intro, methods, results, and discussion of the paper. A discussion and critique of whether or not the conclusions are warranted given the data and experimental design. And then 1 or more ideas for future research and some formatting stuff here as well. So here's the rubric here. As you can see, the summary, critique, and future research are the parts, and in particular, critique and future research are the parts that are worth the most points. And so you're going to want to make sure you do your best work in those sections. Grading is down here in a simple A, B, C, D, F, no plus or minuses, and a simple 90, 80, 70, 60 breakdown. It also notes in here somewhere that I do round up. So an 89.5 really is the lowest A grade, and a 79.5 is the lowest B grade, and so on. To calculate your final grade, your final percentage is just all about points earned. So just add up the points that you have earned and divide that by the points possible, and that's how you're going to calculate your percentage here. One thing I should note about extra credit is, and I should have said this before, let me scroll down here to the schedule real quick. We have a week 1 academic activity quiz that's due Friday, the first Friday of the semester, 8/28 at 5 p.m. And it's really just a simple true and false where you're going to say true to the question that I am here. And that's going to put 2 points in the grade book, which is what the registrar wants to see, that you're actually here. And there's some academic record of your activity. And I'll just count that as extra credit. So when it comes, coming back up here to our points earned, right? So adding up all of the points you earn on exams, quizzes, and article reviews, plus the 2 free points that come from the week 1 academic activity, that all totals into your points earned, and then divide that by points possible, which by the end of the semester will be 800. Then that will determine your final grade percentage and final grade. Okay, let's go to that schedule real quick here. You can see when the exams are. So we are an asynchronous online course, which means there are no pre-scheduled course meetings, but we do have deadlines. So I want to have some structure and pacing to the semester. So you can see here that in the first unit, the first 5 weeks of the semester, we're going to be covering the first 4 chapters of the book, right? Chapter 1 is kind of an introductory stuff there. Chapter 2 is cognitive neuroscience. Chapter 3 is perception. Chapter 4 is attention. That's a big area, a lot of research and a lot of stuff to say about that. So I've allocated 2 weeks really for that, really more of a week and a half. But the idea is there's a lot of stuff to cover. And then at the end of that week 5, which is still listed as attention part 2, that's when that first exam. So you can see the chapter quizzes for 1, 2, 3, and 4 are due at varying dates there, all on Sundays through the month of September. Then we get to the end of September, and that's when that first exam is due. You can work ahead on these quizzes, right? So we're starting on Monday of the semester on 8/24. All of these chapter quizzes are going to open up, so you can start reading and taking those quizzes just ahead of time. You just need to make sure you get them done in advance of that due date. For the exam, though, the exam is only going to be open during the week of the exam itself, right? So during week 5, in the week heading into 9/27, that's when that exam will be available. So you can have some flex time during the week, right? You can take it early, middle, or late in the week that week. Again, you just got to make sure you submit by the deadline on 9/27. And then the second unit's going to work basically the same way here. It starts there in week 6 with chapters 5, 6, 7, We're skipping 8. Well, so we're doing it out of order a little bit here. So we moved to 9, and then we also moved to chapter 10, and then we have exam 2 due there on Sunday, 11/1. Also, make a note here that journal article review number 1. So you're going to read the first of the 2 articles that you have selected and write the review. And that first deadline is October 25th, right there. Now, as I said, we're doing the chapters a little bit out of order. So after exam 2, then we kind of come back and do chapter 8 and then jump back in to do chapter 11. Chapter 11 is another long chapter. There's a lot of stuff to say about language. So got a couple weeks to allocate to that. And we have the chapter 11 quiz due on 11/22, and also the second journal article review also due on Sunday, 11/22. Then we get Thanksgiving break, so we'll take a week off there. We'll come back at after break for partial weeks. So notice here that as we move into week 15, covering chapter 12, the chapter 12 quiz is due on Thursday, 12/3. So this is when the semester ends. Schedule just gets weird at the end of the semester, right? So, uh, so we'll make that's just a weird deviation from our usual Sunday night schedule here, Sunday night deadline schedule. So I will, try to make an announcement as a reminder that week so that we don't forget that we have a Thursday deadline for that quiz. And likewise, during finals week, when we have exam 3, that's also going to be due on a Thursday, 12/10. So that hopefully is all relatively self-explanatory, right? 3 units, and on the first day of each unit, so for unit 1, that's the first day of the semester, 8/24. For unit 2, it's the day after exam 1 closes, which would be Monday, 9/28. All of those quizzes open up, and then during that week 10, that's when the exam will be open. And then likewise, during the third unit, the Monday 11/2 would be the day all of the quizzes open up, and you can start working on those, get those in before the deadlines. And then during finals week, during early December here, between the 4th, really, 12/4 and 12/10, that's when that exam 3 will be available for you to do. Got more of those. This is the auto-populated assignment deadlines in here. The rest of this is a bunch of stuff for you to read, and we're not going to read it to you here. So you can just read all of that, right? Let me come back to the course homepage because this is what I want to show you in the modules. So here we got the syllabus module, which is really just the week 1 academic activity quiz link. And I'm also going to put the link to this video here, so you will see that in order to watch this video. Down here we have lectures and notes, right? So this is not particularly organized in any specific way other than just in order. I think I did successfully reorder this in terms of the order that we're covering the chapters, right? As I noted, we're kind of covering the chapters in the book slightly out of order from how they are organized within the textbook. So we have chapter 1 here. It says Introduction to Cognition. That's the PowerPoint file. And then this is the link to the lecture videos that this links out to YouTube. And so I've broken that out into 2 parts. And then here's the cognitive neuroscience PowerPoints. And then I have that in 3 parts. And here's the perception PowerPoint. And I have that in 5 separate parts. And then the attention PowerPoints here. And that is broken out into 3 parts. And then I've got an exam 1 review video there. And then we move into the second unit. So then we have chapter 5 and 6 and 7. That's only 1 part there. And 9 and 10. And 10 has 4 parts, right? So that all adds up. And then there's the exam 2 review. The video link is not there currently because I have to redo it. The idea, part of the reason why we're covering the chapters in a slightly weird order, I'm not following the book's table of contents strictly, is that in the new edition of the textbook, they reordered some of the chapters. And some of those changes I agree with, and some I don't agree with. So that's why I want to kind of keep the judgment, particularly what I want to do in chapters 9 and 10, judgment and decision making, and 10 is reasoning and problem solving. To me, it makes a whole lot of sense to cover that stuff before we talk about intelligence, which is now chapter 8. It used to be chapter 11. So I prefer then to keep the intelligence content after those topics, not before. So that's what we're going to do. And so then finishing with the language and social cognition. Okay, that's fine. Right. So that means that because of the changes there, I have to remake the exam 2 review video. I also have to remake the exam 3 review video. So that's the only content that you currently do not have. But that's down the line. We don't have to worry about that. I will certainly get those new videos posted before we get to those particular dates. The first unit, chapters 1 through 4, that's unchanged, so I didn't have to do anything new there. Let's talk about the article review papers real quick here before we wrap up this video. So the articles that you should pick, right, are down here. So it says journal articles for review assignment, and there's a bunch of papers here. I might add to this. Depends, right? If I happen to find a couple of papers as the semester starts, something new comes out, maybe that I think is good for this assignment, then I will add it to the list. Your task is to just kind of browse through this list and have a look at some of the papers and pick one that you like and one that makes sense and you think you can write a good review for. So pick one and submit that for article review number 1, and then pick a second one for article review number 2. Now, a common question is, can you pick something that's not on the list? And the answer is yes, but you do need to clear it with me first. I have some criteria, right? The topic of the paper does need to be relevant to the subfield of cognitive psychology in some respect. And it also needs to be an experimental paper, right? No, not a theory paper or a position piece or anything like that. It needs to be a paper that has an actual experiment to report with a methods and a results section. So that's why I would say if you're going to go venture beyond this list, ask me first, so that way I can kind of approve your paper choice. Up here, I have a sample. So basically, I picked a paper from Scarpellini and Smeets there, 2025, and I wrote a review of it. And so my sample review is provided as just that, right? Kind of a sample that's hopefully instructive for how to do such a thing as write a review paper, review of an article, I should say. Now, if I scroll down here, let me open this one up here, articles for general interest, not for review. So what's going on here? I have a bunch of papers. Some of them are kind of old. You can see the Schifrin and Atkinson going back to the 60s and 70s there. What happened is that when I taught this class in person a couple of years ago, kind of spontaneously, sometimes people would ask questions about certain older things. And so I would reference these papers in class. And then I thought, well, maybe it would be useful if I shared these papers to the class so everyone can go see for themselves. And so since then, I have simply kept all of these links in the course because, hey, maybe you might want to read this stuff too, if you're particularly interested in any one of these topics. So if you want to know what these papers are about, I created an annotated bibliography here at the top, so you can just sort of see as a summary what's what from this entire list. Keep in mind, a lot of these are more theoretical papers, and so therefore, because of that, they are not meant to be papers that you should read for the article review assignment, right? So just be careful about that, right? This first module that says journal articles for review assignment, those are the ones that are pre-approved for the article summary paper. And anything else that you would want to possibly use for that assignment, you need to clear with me first. Everything down here are meant for general interest only, right? Just read them for fun. Well, I guess that's it. I think we've covered enough, and that's everything I need to say, except, of course, let me know if you have questions. Send me the inbox message in Canvas, or hop into Zoom office hours, or show up here in my office for office hours. Either way, just let me know. Okay.